Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 763. We open the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 763 with an application of critical thinking. Can you see the Great Wall of China from space? Urban legends say yes. Chip and Dan Heath, in their book Made to Stick, check out the reread, say no. Let's think about this. We also have a visit from Jon M Quigley. Jon and I discuss the implication of saying time is money. In the information economy, using that old saw can lead to more problems than it solves. An example of using critical thinking by Thomas M. Cagley Jr., Megan E. Cagley. Why is critical thinking important? It is an important question, but one that shouldn't need a lot of effort to answer. A straightforward answer is that we need to be able to sort ideas that seem right from those that are right. The need for this type of thinking is not new. Manipulation of information and active dissemination of misinformation is as old as the human race. I recently began the reread of Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. Link in the show notes. One of the sticky ideas they pointed out in the introduction was that the Great Wall of China is often said to be visible from space with the unaided eye. The Heaths dismiss this urban legend out of hand, and while they're probably right, we should apply a little bit more rigor. Let's apply Paul Gibbons and Tricia Kennedy's critical thinking construct, liar, from their book Change Myth. Paul recently appeared on the Software Process and Measurement Cast to discuss critical thinking and his book. By the way, liar stands for L, logic, I, intuition, A, authority, R, research or evidence. If we consider space to be low Earth orbit, just above 100 miles, if you're looking down in a vacuum, atmospheres are a bit messy, the best an unaided eye can resolve is 0.1248 arc minute. Sounds like a very small thing. The Great Wall's width is 0.45 arc minutes, significantly 4 times bigger. We will push away the whole idea of the messy atmosphere for a second and state that it is possible to see the Great Wall. If the Great Wall is visible, then so should a Walmart superstore and the Pentagon. It would be safe to say, under optimal conditions, many man-made items should be observable from 100 miles above the Earth. I am skeptical that the Great Wall and Walmart superstores are visible from space. Maybe it's the cynic in me that colors my intuition. If man-made objects were visible, why wouldn't an advertising agency build some temporary installation to spell out a major brand name as a publicity stunt? While costly, it would be pretty spectacular. My intuition, I in liar, suggests the Great Wall is not visible. Authorities. Yeah, there are authorities on this topic. Astronauts Eugene Cernan and Ed Lu, in a Scientific American Online article in February 2008, stated that they had seen the Great Wall from low Earth orbit. The problem noted by the astronauts, people that have experienced so that they can be authorities, is that unless conditions are perfect, cue our messy atmosphere conversation, seeing the wall from low Earth orbit is difficult. Evidence is hard to come by. A search of NASA's website turns up a picture taken November 24, 2004 from the International Space Station that, when enhanced, shows the Great Wall. The picture is from a camera with a 180 millimeter lens. The camera uses a crop sensor, so a 180 millimeter lens provides significant magnification, hardly equal to a naked eye. Evidence is a weak link when arguing that you can see the Great Wall from low Earth orbit unless you choose to believe Cernan and Lou. Using critical thinking, we can determine that seeing the Great Wall from low Earth orbit is possible. Also, that there are credible authorities that have had the experience, but the lack of evidence cast doubt. I can see how opinions can differ. The answer is far from cut and dry. If we want a cut and dry answer, we need to change the definition of space to the moon, where the physics of the human eye would prevent the possibility in entirety. The whole idea of using critical thinking allows us to see how opinions can vary, to test the evidence, to think through the logic, and then make our own decision as to whether or not it's possible to see the Great Wall of China from space. From 100 miles above the Earth? It may well be. From the moon? Heck no. Thoughts, comments, all welcome. Please feel free to reach out to us at spamcastinfo@gmail.com. We will continue to explore the ideas of critical thinking for the remainder of the summer. Jon M Quigley, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Hey, Tom, as always, it's a pleasure to be here.
And I am smiling like a Cheshire cat.
I think I'm stepping into something unpleasant.
I don't think it's unpleasant. Jon, time is money.
Yeah.
That's probably the most well-used, some might say, hackneyed phrase that we've heard in the business world. You were alluding to side effects of this wonderful phrase.
Yeah. I'd kind of like to know who came up with this phrase, and I sort of get it. And maybe in the context of the Industrial Revolution, that makes some sense when you're looking at manufacturing lines. But modern application of that phrase, I think we should get rid of it from that phraseology from our lexicon, expunge it and get away from it.
Why?
Because it does so much harm. It does so much harm. When you're focused on a particular time, you're saying, I exclude learning. When you focus on time, you exclude experimentation and innovation. I need to get this done fast. The primary directive is fast. The thing that we need to be measured on is the speed, not how we spread what we know in the company so that the other parts of the company benefit from the other parts of the company. And you can't do that if you're saying the most important thing to do here is to spend time, is to manage our time and book 90% billable hours or higher.
Oh yeah, 90% billable hours. Yeah. That would be, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I've ever done that. And I've been in this business for a while.
I've worked at companies who wanted to hit 90% billable hours. And I was like, it's been a while, but okay. I was there for it. And I'm like,
so let's say
this is so good.
Well, I mean, and let's say, not even say the word billable hours for a second, but I want everyone 100% running at 100% capacity utilization all the time on project work. That's the same problem. Then
you're pushing the company. Yeah, it's the same problem. You're essentially saying I need about 120% capacity of my people, because everything comes with overhead in an organization. And the bigger the organization, in my experience, the more overhead. You have time reporting. There's so many other things that you have to do in the course of your job that move you away from allocated time specific to any particular project or project task.
Well, and so, I think you alluded to the fact that it also then sort of excludes you doing things that aren't specific to the project. So learning and any growth would be, I would argue that organizations that do that have an expectation of people as fungible resources that they can plug in and plug out. I'll use you up, you, Mr. Employee, and we'll get into the other side of that coin. But you, Mr. Employee, or Ruby, I'm going to use you for your Ruby until I don't need Ruby anymore. Then I'm going to throw you away and get somebody who knows whatever's next, right?
Right. And then we're not fungible. We're all equal, but we're not fungible. We're not equally talented. We're not equally motivated. This is not in the context of socio-political things. We're talking about work-related things, and we are not fungible.
Well, I don't think in either all three of those scenarios, I don't see anybody as fungible.
Yeah.
I mean, dollars and pounds might be fungible, but human beings are, we're dealing with a whole bunch of unique attributes. Yeah. And we have to continue to hone those unique attributes in organizations. I also see this as one of the more common problems in organizations that feel that they can just outsource all of their work and they don't have to worry about any of those other kinds of problems. So it's, I don't have to grow anybody. I just, they'll do that.
Somebody's going to have to grow somebody, and you're paying for it, whether you are the owner of the resources, talent, you're the company with the talent, and you're actually paying for it right there, or you're paying the overhead at your tier one who's doing the work for you. There better be some learning going on, or they're going to be out of business too, and you're going to be looking for a new supplier. And you'll probably go out of business too, because that innovation and that learning and advancing the entirety of your company internally, not just externally and not just the dollars, has to come from someplace. And if it doesn't, then I would imagine that there's a lot of companies that are no longer existing because they've had too cavalier of a approach to this stuff.
Do you think this is better or worse in the era of the gig economy?
In the era of the gig economy, I think it might be better. And I only say that from the perspective, if I look at it as an individual, the individual has a lot more ability to say what they will accept. They're responsible for their bill rate and for the number of hours and those estimates and hitting the target. So I would like to believe that some of that's included, in their work, in the person doing the gig.
I think I'd like to believe that, but I'm not convinced, right? I'm unfortunately, I mean, you and I are different human beings. You've written how many books at this point?
It's probably 16 by the time this airs, maybe something like that. By the end of 2023, it'll be 18 or so. 2023, early 24.
And these, of course, require no research, no growth on your part. So you were born with all of this information, and you're just finding a path to get it out of you.
No, that's not true, and you know it. And good thing there's no video here. They'd see all the lines in my eyes and the white on my beard, and they would say, "Yeah, that didn't happen overnight, and not without consequence over the decades."
No, the point is you have spent an immense amount of time and effort growing. I don't know that everybody has that luxury, and they might have the luxury to have some. I know that there are a lot of people who don't have the motivation. I work with, or at least before the COVID rolled through, I spent a lot of time traveling to companies and would, meet people, start up communities of practice where the organization would invest in learning, but they made it optional, and 2 or 3 people would show up out of 100 people because, well, A, They were running at 100% capacity because time's money, baby.
Time's money.
But
And
also
it's optional. You made it optional.
Well, how can you make people learn if you make it not optional? Because it really isn't.
Yeah. I would say, to go back just a little space, I don't think it's a luxury to take time and learn. And I think I agree with the motivation part. And in the world as dynamic as this place is nowadays, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure we find time to do this discipline rather than luxury. It's not like it's I'm going to relax here and study a book. I'm going to relax here and look at some methodologies or try some stuff, experiment. That's not a relaxing thing. That's a disciplined and methodical and disciplined self-development approach to things. And I think individually we have to consider that. We can't just get our degree and then quit. It's increasingly less likely that you're going to be very successful with that, I think.
Well, I was poking around in the attic mid last year. We had work done in the attic, and so I was trying to get some cleared out, and I found some old textbooks. I mean, I kept the math ones and the quant books because the equations are probably the same. Not that I'd ever use them, but a lot of the other books, it's like, could I take them to the library? Could I sell them? And my wife just looks at him, and my daughter walked by, who is working on her second or third degree post getting her bachelor's, and said, Dad, you know, maybe they would let you recycle those. Maybe.
Yes. I had my kids at state doing some project and they had to write some stuff in C. I have a C++ Bible, and I asked them if they were interested in, and they said yes. So I handed them, this was probably from 1990. A few of my books from 1990. I'm betting they're probably got some relevancy to them, but I'm also betting you could easily find it on YouTube or something like that.
Well, any language probably has been updated a couple of times since 1990.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, yeah. There are even newer versions of COBOL.
Yeah. Or it's obsolete. But to kind of circle back to what a company does and what they don't do, or the environment they set, specifically your observation of, this is my community of practice. You can be here. You can choose not to. I don't care. I am going to make this set up something. At least that's a step maybe in the right direction. But if you take one step in the right direction and then you stop, you really haven't accomplished much. They haven't set an atmosphere where this is taken seriously based on what you described. And I don't know exactly what that looks like, but if it's not required, if you're not expressing a need that the organization's need of the employee, that you should be constantly honing your craft and learning new things, then you're doing a disservice to the employee and to your company.
Right. So, and I've seen organizations that have, in essence, everyone is allocated X number of training hours a year. Now, they don't say what they want them to be trained in, and so it's, it's just growth. And I'm not 100% convinced. Again, I've been in the gig economy for way too long. I'm not convinced that those things actually get tracked and used. So time might be money. I think that does sort of preclude things, but I also don't think people are terribly motivated. Maybe it's the engagement word again. Because they're not engaged, they're not that engaged in learning and growing. Or am I being just negative Nancy?
Oh, no, I think in my experience, I've been in the gig economy a lot less time than you have. And my experience in the non-gig economy, I would not disagree with what you just said. Maybe we're too comfortable with what where we're at, and we're good with that. I'm personally, I don't, the same old stuff. It makes me uncomfortable. I prefer to constantly be pushing. I look forward better than I look backwards. But I don't think a lot of people are built like that. And when there was another thing you said, when it comes to the motivation and engagement, I recently looked at the 2022 results of the Gallup poll. And we're better than we used to be. But over the years, we've had discussions about Gallup and their employee engagement, those who are engaged, those who are not engaged, and the actively disengaged. And I think I remember the engagement rate was like 1 in 3 at this point, which is a little better than the 1 in 4 that it used to be, but it's still abysmal.
Well, yeah, agreed. But, a lot of people own that problem, and perhaps we'll come back to discussing engagement next time. If we're not going to use the term or the phrase, time is money, what would be a better phrase?
It is not in the context, time is money in the context of I need you to keep working to keep the revenue stream going. Or billing hours that bring a revenue stream is inappropriate. But I can't think of a phrase that would radically capture what learning is money. There you go. Learning is money, experimenting is money.
Okay.
Because that's where your innovation comes from and your motivation of your employees can be developed and things like that.
If you agree or disagree with Jon, you need to reach out and have that conversation with him. Jon, how would they have that conversation with you?
You can email me at jon.quigley@valuetransform.com or connect with me on LinkedIn at Jon M Quigley on LinkedIn.
Super. We'll have that contact information in the show notes. Jon, as always, this was a ton of fun.
Thank you, Tom. You're right. I always enjoy chatting with you for sure.
And time is fun. This week, we begin our reread of Made to Stick, Why Some Ideas Survive and Others Die by Chip and Dan Heath in Earnest. The introduction lays out the framework for the book and a lot more. This is not one of those introductions you can skip. I can tell that this reading of Made to Stick is going to be different than the first. Heraclitus stated, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he is not the same man." This reread may well be an examination of the dangers of accepting sticky ideas and those that generate sticky ideas. Links in the show notes to buy a copy of Made to Stick and to the first 2 installments of our reread. In the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 764, we will feature my conversation with Johanna Rothman. We discussed her new book, Successful Independent Consulting. Well, we started there and then hit topics like personal value and impact of success. Talking with Johanna is the same as attending a masterclass. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?